It is Derby week here in Louisville. Some of you guys might be joining us down here at some point for the Derby, but it's a big week down here for all landscapers. Unfortunate part of it this week is it sounds like our weather is going to be a little bit off and on during the week, starting tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So get my buddies from BAM on here, Matt, with me Wednesday. He'll be on our Wednesday show with us to get us through the rest of the week. But today's supposed to be a good day, and is a good day out there. We're supposed to hit about the mid-80s. So good day to be doing whatever it is we want to be doing outside landscape-wise. And because Derby week's up into this week. I mean, this week it actually eases a little bit on us. But up until this week and then getting through Friday of this week is push time on landscapers in our market. Everybody's going to do something for the Derby, you know. Man, I'll let you do it if you can get it done by the Derby. I'll let you do this if Derby, blah, 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 blah. And the funny part about it is what I've really learned over the many years of having Derby as the thumb down on top of us is that most of these people aren't even having Derby parties. You know, it's just a way for them to say, hey, man, I'll let you do it if you can get it done by this time, you know. So, and that's all okay. I get it. I understand it. So, but yeah, we're coming to the end of that this week, and then it's just normal wear and tear and hustle and bustle of being in the landscape industry. I know you guys in different markets, like Indianapolis, for an example, you know, probably the 500 may be a push date for you guys, or down in, you know, Daytona, you get the push. There's different, Atlanta, probably the Masters tournament, you know, so I know, hey, I don't want to sound like I'm crybabying because I'm not, because every market's got their own push dates. But, hey, we got it under control. You got it under control. We all got it under control. So with that being said, we'll deal with Mother Nature as we always do, right? We can't control it, so we might as well not get frustrated with it and just learn how to deal with it. That's how you do it. So for you guys that may be new in the industry, that's all you need to know is don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It is what it is. It's going to come and go, and next year it'll come and go again. So don't fret about it. Don't stress out about it like what I did for a long, long time. Yeah, I mean, I get it. You still got accounts you want to get taken care of for whatever the reason is, you know. But at the end of the day, you know, the sun will come out tomorrow. And if it doesn't, none of us are going to need to worry about it anyway. So that's the reality of that. Hope you guys had a great weekend and ready to kick off a good week. We had a good weekend for sure. And Seth, appreciate you listening, my friend. We're going to have a special guest on with us here in just a couple minutes, Brad Stewart. So you guys listening to us, if you've got any kind of insurance question, if you want to play stump the speaker, you can. He'll probably have an answer for you, I'm sure. Right, Brad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If not, I'll find out the answer and get back to him.
Yeah. But no, Brad's got a whole lot of experience. He'll tell you about himself and his experience here in just a second. But I appreciate him hopping on with us today and sharing his knowledge about insurance. We've got a few generic questions, I don't want to call them generic. Basic, yeah. A few basic questions, but seriously, if you guys have any insurance questions that you want to, you know, run through, and Brad would be happy to answer those for you live. You can simply text those to us, and we'll go from there. But again, touching base on your weekend. Hope you had a good weekend. Hope your Monday's off to a good start. I had a good weekend. Didn't do a whole lot. What about you, Brad? Did you do anything great? Did you golf?
Yeah, my wife was gone both days, so I played golf Saturday and yesterday.
I got you.
So that was a good weekend. Not that the fact my wife was gone, just the fact that I could play golf without having to do yard work or whatever it was I needed to do. Yeah.
Yeah. How many honeydew projects did you have left behind? Any?
I mean, it doesn't matter. It's just like everything else. It's business or personal. By the time I get the list done, there's another list formed, so I never get done.
I hear you.
I get done when they shut the casket lid.
Yeah, I hear you. Oh my God, that's funny, but it's pretty true. Yeah. That's right. It keeps us honest, man. That's what it does. So uh, keeps us all good and honest. But I had a pretty good weekend. Didn't really do a whole lot. Yesterday, I'm actually switching TVs out in my RV. So the guy that does all of our tech stuff for us, you know, computers, TVs, that kind of stuff around the house and here and whatever. Lee, he's with a company. If ever you need anything like that done, like you want to, God, any golf simulators. He does golf simulators.
Really?
He does all the work for him out there at what's that golf store at the mall, across the street from the mall.
Oh, wow.
Whatever that golf place. He just replaced
Golf Galaxy.
Yeah, he works with them and pretty much everybody really that's cares about what they're getting. He's got a pretty good little side business going, and then he's also pretty high up with VA. So, uh, you know that. But he's got a company called Tech to Go, and he's really good at what he does. So if ever you need any type of TV work, computer work, surround sound work, you know, like I said, he's trying to talk Colin to a golf simulator. Colin's a golf simulator, I think. So
I think Kyle should get it, and I can just come to his house and hit.
Yeah.
And then I don't need one.
Then you don't need one.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a boat.
Exactly.
You know, find a fin that's got a boat. Yeah. You don't need one. But that's one thing I have not missed yet is my boat.
Two happiest days in your life.
Yeah.
The day you buy the boat and the day you get rid of the boat.
Yeah, that was true for me too. I loved it. I had a great time with it. You know, with my kids growing up, we had a boat. But boy, I tell you what, a year ago in October when I sold that thing, I was not sad to get rid of it.
You know, we used to. I never pleasure boat. I fished. You know, we tournament fished, and you fill the truck up with gas, or fill the truck up with gas, fill the boat up with gas, $300 or $400. Go fish a weekend tournament somewhere that costs $150 a piece to get into, and then if you don't cash, you know, it's basically $1,000. I told my buddy, I said, dude, wow, where else could you go and throw $1,000 away every damn weekend? You know,
yeah.
And we caught fish, but
yeah, and enjoy.
We won a couple times, but you win $1,500 a piece and you spend $1,000. I mean, the return's not real good.
Yeah, true that. But
we had a good time though. I mean, it was a lot of fun, but it was expensive fun.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Hey, Craig, appreciate you listening. Craig's listening to us today. He said he's on the beach listening to us.
Wow.
Quick little getaway with the anniversary with his wife. So Craig, yeah, we're going to have Brad Stewart on with us today. I don't know if you heard me come on initially with Nelson Insurance, and we're going to talk insurance today for a little while. But before we get into that, I just wanted to find out about y'all's weekend. So it sounds like we know what you've been doing, Craig. You got your little skate planned, and I was getting new TVs. They're not in yet, but got the old ones out. Got the old ones out. Going to get some new TVs in the RV, and looking forward to that. It's time for an update. You know, God, I forgot how heavy those old TVs are, man.
Dude, we've been cleaning up my mom's, like I told you. She's got flat screen, and then she's got. But the ones she's got are those that have that big. They look like flat screen, but they've got all that behind them.
Yeah.
Dude, we carried 3 of those out of the basement the night before last, and I thought I was going to have to take therapy. I mean, they got to weigh 130 pounds. I mean, it's the damnest.
They are heavy, yeah. Especially compared to the way the new ones are. You know, yeah. It's crazy. So, but anyways, let's see what we got here. Hey, well, that's a good question. We'll ask Brad that question when we get rocking and rolling. Got our first question, right? So, all right. So, anyways, let me go ahead and we'll introduce Brad. And for you guys that are listening to us on podcasts, feel free to reach out. Or if you're watching this on Zoom, YouTube with us, feel free to reach out to us at any point in time. We can get you in touch with Brad. So, but Brad, if you would tell our listeners your name, and a lot of them know you because they've heard you before, either here on the radio with us or in the Profit Circle. I know you've helped us in there as well. So,
Brad Stewart. I live here. I live about 30 miles north of Louisville. Worked in Louisville my whole life. Been in the insurance business since I got out of college in '85. Worked on the insurance company side for 9 years, underwriting, commercial underwriting, marketing. Got in the agency business in '94, and I've been a commercial insurance agent since 1994 with 3 different agencies. First agency, a couple years. Second agency, 15 years. And the agency I'm with right now, 14 years.
So plenty of experience. And what's the difference between just, I understand it because you've explained it to me before, but what's the difference between underwriting and agency experience? What's that?
So the underwriting background that I had gave me, I learned all the coverage forms. I learned the way that insurance companies basically underwrite or look at a particular risk, the do's, the don'ts, the items that you push to the front to make the risk look better to an insurance company, and the items, I won't say downplay, but items that aren't as important to the insurance company. There's no need of bringing those to the forefront. They'll get addressed eventually, but that's not the stuff that they're looking at in order to price or write your account. I spent, from 88 to 93 as a new business marketing underwriter for a large insurance company, and I spent from 93 to 94 with another insurance company. And then I just decided that, I didn't want to work for the man anymore. So I went to the agency side, and I've been there ever since.
And it's obviously panned out pretty good for you. I know
I've done okay.
You've helped us for a long time. So what are some, just to discuss, and again, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us, 502-550-8307. That's 502-550-8307. And Brad, I'd be happy to entertain your questions. But just as far as general coverages go, can we get rid of the myth that I'm small, I can just have my truck and my trailer is okay on my personal policy?
Yeah.
Can we get that out there first? Because I see that all the time on social media. And guys like, well, you guys, y'all don't have to have separate insurance. Your personal policy I cover it.
So if you, so the named insured, if the named insured is Wayne Bowles, and Wayne's the named insured on the personal insurance policy, and Wayne's doing lawn care out of his personal truck with pulling his personal trailer, then there's two things. I mean, if you can prove that you're not making money pulling around your lawnmower and mowing people's yards,
that's 90% of the industry,
right?
No. Are we talking?
Well, I'm talking about covering expenses and stuff like that.
Paid.
Yeah, getting paid.
Getting paid. Okay.
You're not getting paid.
I was going to say, because there's a whole lot of our industry that doesn't make any money.
You're just cutting your grandmother's yard or whatever, then you're fine. But if you've got Wayne's Lawn Service on the side of the truck, there's an exclusion in your personal automobile policy that will exclude coverage for business use. You can drive your vehicle, your personal vehicle, back and forth to a job site, but you don't use it for business use.
Right. Now, what about the guy that does say that, Brad, that, well, I don't have a name on my truck, so it doesn't matter?
It does matter, because if you're pulling trailers and stuff, whether you got your name on the back of it or not, if you're pulling trailers, mowers, whatever you've got on the trailer, and you have an accident, it would be very hard to convince someone, if you've got 4 skags on the back of a 28-foot trailer, that you're just mowing your own yard. So there'll be an investigation, and they may end up paying it, but you may have to wait 6-8 months to get your money too. There may be depositions. which is time away from
What
work.
does happen in that situation? Where I've rolling around. I don't have insurance. I do have an accident, and so but you say they may pay it even though it was
Well,
commercial use. What happens after the fact on that?
they cancel.
Do they?
Yeah, there's no, you don't get.
And then what happens? Can I still go out and get insurance from somebody else?
Yeah, but it'll be high risk. I mean, here's the thing. If it may cost you a little more in the short term to properly insure yourself, but in the long run, the money that you will save from headache standpoint, just from loss of business, because there's a lot of places that, I mean, if you're mowing people's personal yards, most of those people don't ask you for certificates of insurance. But if you're doing commercial properties, you're working for various industrial manufacturers,
Right.
property, stuff like that. None of them are going to let you work without insurance. And to a fault, most of them require you to have too much insurance. Guy mowing yard has to carry the same amount of insurance that the guy that's working on the propane tanks. Chances of blowing the entire building up with the lawnmower are pretty slim. Chances of blowing the building up with a propane tank, it could happen. But they do this broad brush deal. And I've got customers that, you can go back to those property managers and stuff and try to negotiate a better deal. In other words, hey, I've got $2 million in umbrella.
Well, I know you did help us
Yeah.
do that with Humana,
Right.
actually, or with that pollution coverage they wanted for snow.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. A lot of these, there's consultants are different than insurance agents. I mean, consultants, you can't be a consultant and an insurance agent on the same account. In other words, I can't consult on an account and write the insurance. I have, I've got several accounts that I work with that have consultants on them, and they ask for, because they've got a lot of customers they deal with, and rather than specifically tailor the insurance coverage, the needs for that particular client, they just broad brush everything, and then they spend all their time going back and forth around, up and down with people such as myself, trying to get the insurance right for that particular customer, for the particular customer that is trying to work with it. It's a nightmare. I mean, it truly is. Certificates of insurance used to be type a couple things, push a button. Now it's you have to add 5 endorsements. They want blanket additional insured. They want blanket waiver of subrogation.
What does that actually mean, blanket additional insured? Because you're right, we get a lot of that.
So blanket additional insured. Let's just say you're doing work for Nelson Insurance, and you're taking care of the grounds around our building. Additional insured means that we're requiring you to name us as an additional insured on the policy, so that if you do something while you're working for us that injures someone or throw a rock through somebody's car or whatever, and they sue you, but because we own the property, they're going to try to sue us too.
All right.
So what the additional insured endorsement does is it puts you first in the pecking order, and then our insurance is excess.
So they're going after my limits.
They're going to your limits first, and then they'll come to ours if they get all yours. Right?
Okay.
Blanket just means that if you have a lot of customers that you work for, and they all want to be named additional insured, it's a lot less inexpensive to buy a blanket additional insured endorsement from your insurance company as opposed to naming each one of them as an additional insured on their own.
I see.
It's usually $500. Let's just say it's $500 for a blanket additional insured, and they want $100 a piece for if you name them individual. That's not. It varies by insurance company, but you can usually do 3 or 4 if you do them by themselves.
All right, and
before you get into the blanket. But if you've got 10 customers or whatever, you're losing money to do them on a name basis.
I got you. And what's the basic, if there is such a thing, not limits, but like, let's say I've got a landscaping business, okay, and I've also, let's look at 2 scenarios and maybe they don't change. I've got a real job and I mow 50 yards on my own after I get off my real job with a truck and trailer and lawnmowers, or I'm just out on my own mowing 50 yards. Does the insurance requirement change on what I need to have as far as like what's the difference between like general liability, commercial auto, the different things that we insure against before?
So, first part of your question is there a specific limit? No. I mean, there's no law or whatever that says you have to carry a specific general liability limit. But the question that you have to ask yourself is, if you're out there and you're representing yourself to the public, you're in a business. I can only speak for the viewing market is from television and stuff that we have here.
All right.
But we've got 6 or 7 attorneys that I can think of that are doing TV commercials every day. That, if you're injured in this or this happens or whatever, we can get you more money. We're battling the big insurance companies, yada yada. So if you buy a $100,000 limit, and especially if you're not an LLC or some type of corporation, if you buy a $100,000 limit in your personal name, or you don't have any insurance at all, guess what? You throw a rock through somebody or somebody's house or car, they're coming after you personally, and there's no limit, there's no barrier between you and all your personal assets. So they're coming at, if you don't have insurance, they're coming after your personal assets. Now, to go from, let's just say for this goes back to my underwriting days. This has changed probably a little bit, but it's still holds true. So $300,000 limit. Everybody wants to sell, a $300,000 limit. Well, $1 million limit, to go from $300,000 to $1 million is only about 7 or 8% more. So if you pay $100 for $300,000, you can pay $1.08, $1.09 for $1 million. For 8 cents, I'm buying $1 million. The automobile limits, $1 million. I've had 4 claims in the last 5 years that they've thrown out policy limits on stuff. I mean, one of them. And it doesn't even really have to be your fault. You're in it. So you guy in front of you slams on the brakes. You slam on your brakes. Somebody hits you and drives you into the rear end from the guy in front of you. They're going after everybody that's in that wreck. They're going after them.
Yeah.
Now they may weed you out, but here's the other thing: they'll weed you out, but your insurance company, with the way and they call them nuclear settlements now. That's what the new buzzword is for these high dollar insurance settlements. But they'll pay you $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 to get out of the claim, because they know if they go to court in front of a jury or your jury of your peers, they've all seen those insurance commercials.
Right.
The attorney commercials. So hell, those insurance companies got billions and billions of dollars, which they do. But insurance is law of large numbers. So everybody shares. If they pay you $1 million, the rest of us are going to have to make up for that $1 million in the cost of our insurance. So yeah, it's I don't know. Insurance has made me kind of a jaded person.
Right. No. I can imagine after that many years of it. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how that goes. What about? Question is, Scott sat down and said, "What if he has combs out? Does that help?"
Yeah, it helps to mitigate the if somebody comes flying. Well, perfect example. I had a claim like that 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Lawn care guy had his combs out, had flashing stuff up. Some kid wasn't paying attention, 17, 18 years old, ran into the back of his truck. The parents' insurance of the kid that hit the truck only had 25, 50, 10 limits, which means 25 bodily, 50 property damage. 25 bodily, 50 overall, and 10 property damage. So when the boy hit the back of the truck, parents didn't have enough insurance on the car for the PIP, which was $10,000, and the lawn care guy's insurance ended up paying for the injuries to the kid, even though they had nothing to do with it. Yeah, it's ridiculous, man. So yeah, yes, cones, flashing lights, all that stuff mitigates stuff, but there's no guarantee that that you can get out of a claim if something like that happens. I mean, all you can do is what you can do, and then
Right.
basically the rest of it's just up to uh, luck.
Yeah.
Basically luck. Because if you do all the loss control stuff, everything you possibly can.
So loss control would be like your cones,
right? Your cones, your safety flashers. You put up barricades.
Anything you can do to
anything you can do, to mitigate a loss, or to prevent a loss from happening. Yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't help, but you're never relieved from the liability.
Yeah. There's just, even with all the hold harmlesses, all that type of stuff, you're still not, you're never out of it. It keeps putting more layers between you and the actual event, but you're never out of it.
Yeah. So what would you say in your experience, Brad? How many people, and this may not be the right way of asking this question, but I'm going to make it two questions.
Okay.
Why are they so reluctant to get the coverage, number one?
Good.
And then number two is, why, or not why, but how many guys do you see are business owners that you work with, because you service a lot of different industries? How many will go have like the general liability insurance, but they do not have the work comp insurance?
Okay. So,
and why do you think they do that?
So, and I don't, we're speaking of states everywhere. So you've got the monopolistic states, Ohio, West Virginia, where everybody buys their insurance through the state fund.
All right.
And then you've got the other states, that are, they deal with the standard insurance market. So there's a lot of various things. But, and I can't speak for other states, but like state of Kentucky, once again, law's one thing, action's another. So the state of Kentucky says if you're a sole proprietor, you don't have to carry workers' comp insurance.
All right.
All right? Sole proprietor. So, but then the courts, in their infinite wisdom, so you hire me as a sub. I'm a sole proprietor. I'm working for you and I get injured. Guess what? I can collect against your workers' comp insurance. Even though I by law, I can't, I've decided I don't want workers' comp insurance. I can collect on yours. And that's what, poor little Johnny or whatever got, he didn't take the workers' comp. Johnny's got a wife and 3 kids, and Johnny gets his leg cut off working for you. Well, I feel it's tough luck, Johnny. You chose not to take workers' comp, but the state, the
potentially
court, it goes back to you. They paid the insurance company for you paid Johnny for his leg being cut off and paid him total disability benefits till Johnny was gone. But once again, it's and I'm not good, but when everybody making the laws are all attorneys,
right?
And the ones they're all attorneys, at some point they're not going to be where they're making laws and they're going to be back in private practice. So it's kind of a, like I said, I'm not going to go.
No, I hear you, man.
I'm not going to get on that stump.
No, I hear you. So work comp, then somebody excludes out of work comp.
They don't even have to buy it in Kentucky. They don't have to exclude out. They are not required. A sole proprietor state of Kentucky is not.
Now, when you say a sole proprietor, what if they're an LLC?
LLCs
or sub S's.
Sub S's have to sub S. So LLC, the 2 owners are automatically, if there's the owners of the LLC are automatically excluded from workers' comp. So they have to include themselves if they want to be in the workers' comp, right? Sub S, you have to physically sign a Form 4 that you have to file with workers' comp that says that you as an owner you're wanting to exclude your payroll from the workers' comp calculation.
All right.
But otherwise, you're automatically included too.
Okay. So you're in it regardless.
You're in it until you get your
So
stuff
it's
out.
based on somebody's structure. On
Correct.
Okay.
It's based on sole proprietor. You don't have to
so
do
if somebody's not sure,
anything.
then
They need to ask their insurance agent.
they need to follow up with their insurance agent.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then general liability. What's the difference between general liability and work comp?
So workers' comp is a first-party employee coverage. General liability is a third-party coverage for damage to bodily injury or property damage to another person's stuff.
All right. And then I guess your auto stuff is completely different.
Auto's got first-party and third-party coverage in it because physical damage coverage is designed to cover your vehicles. The liability coverage is designed to cover other people's vehicles if you run into them.
What if I personally have a truck?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I go out and I buy a truck,
Mm-hmm.
and it's for Wayne Bowes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But then I put that truck into operation in my fleet, whether fleet's 1, 2, 5, or 25,
Right.
whatever.
Yep.
Okay. Does my personal coverage follow that truck? Or should I have my commercial auto cover that truck?
All right. So there's.
I know it's a few different.
So state of Kentucky.
Going
Once
on.
again, state of Kentucky is a little bit different. State of
Mhm.
Kentucky insurance follows the truck. So
All right.
if you've got it insured personally, even if you're using it for work and something happens to that truck, then your primary insurance would be your personal insurance.
All right.
Wayne's Lawn Service insurance would be excess over top of that because under the hired non-owned coverage for Wayne's Lawn Service, it would pick it up excess of whatever if the record. Now the physical damage would go back against your personal insurance. The easiest, and I know this is where you're leading me, the easiest way to do it would be if you've got a personal truck that you're using for personal and business use, you need to lease the truck to the business because your business policy is a lot more lenient on personal use of a vehicle than your personal policy is on business use of a vehicle. Does that make sense?
Yeah. All right.
But
So
you can drop a
how
lease
does a person lease their own?
So I've got lease agreements that are already been approved by attorneys, insurance companies, and stuff. Where I give you the lease agreements, you say I Wayne Bowes for whatever sum.
Yeah.
Lease this truck to Wayne's Lawn Service, and then it spells out the parameters and stuff of the insurance coverages and stuff that you as Wayne's require Wayne Bowes to do.
All right. So that's something that somebody can just reach out to their agent
Correct. Yes.
and do that if they
Right.
want to do that. Okay.
And like I said, the stuff that I'm dealing with is Kentucky specific on a lot of stuff. So there may be, who knows? There may be something in your state that won't let you do it. I mean, if I lived in California, then there may be laws in California that won't allow you to do that. I don't know.
So Wayne Bowes wants to save some money, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
on insurance, and I'm mowing just 50 yards a week or whatever it is, and I'm going down the street and I have an accident. My truck's fine, but my trailer had a blowout and my lawnmower flies off the back of the trailer into traffic and causes damage otherwise to cars or property.
Yep.
Is my personal policy still going to take care? What happens in that situation? Because I see guys wanting to debate that all the time, and I'm not going to argue with them.
Your SOL. If your mower flies off your personal truck that you don't have, and you don't have the insurance on the mower, all right. So mower flies off personal truck,
Right.
So the truck itself, the liability insurance may cover if it flies onto somebody else's car. There may be coverage. Don't know. But, it's liability, so there's a chance for liability coverage for the mower flying off until they find out that there may be going back to the business use we were talking about earlier.
All right.
But initially, they may pay the claim. The lawnmower itself, unless you have it specifically covered under a separate rider, endorsement, whatever, there would be no coverage for the damage to the mower itself.
All right.
The damage to the trailer, if the trailer hits someone that resulted in this, once again, this is in Kentucky, state trailer hits someone resulting in the mower flying off, doing whatever, the liability for the vehicle, the trailer coverage itself, the liability for it follows the truck. So truck insured for $300,000, the trailer has $300,000 liability on it as well. Now the physical damage to the trailer, no. There's no, you have to schedule physical damage separately from the rest of it. But
Okay.
there would be liability, all right? But it's, once again, there's liability until if they choose to investigate it, and if it's just a ding, you know, your lawnmower flies off and bumps into something, whatever, and it's a couple of $1,000s, they're not going to investigate that because they're not even. But if it's a lawnmower flies off, goes through somebody's windshield and kills them, type deal, yeah, they're going to look into that. So it's all, you know, it's not a matter of whether they will or not. It's just a matter they may if the damages aren't enough, but because they're not going to investigate it.
I gotcha. All right, let's see. Can you get accident life insurance as a small business under the same policy? Example, can my wife cash in and move to Barbados with a 22-year-old if I flip over on a mower?
No. Now, and the reason, all right, so position I'm in, I'm 1099. All right, so I'm partners with a guy in the agency, but we're both, and the three other guys, we're all 1099. So we have to provide our own workers' comp, but sole proprietor, state of Kentucky, I don't have to have workers' comp. So then I bought a short-term, long-term disability policy that has accidental death and dismemberment on it. So it pays me up to 6 months short term, and then like a 70%. It pays me 6 months short term, up to what my actual salary is, and then after 6 months, it pays me 75% of what my monthly annual salary is. But if I'm killed, it pays two times. I think it's three times the policy limit. So that, you know, but
So it's a separate policy.
it's a separate policy that can be bought, but you can under general liability or workers' comp. There's not an accident or dismemberment policy or anything like that. But you can buy separate coverage. Yes.
Okay.
And you may even, if you buy a life insurance policy, you can probably get AD&D on accidental death and dismemberment. You can probably get a coverage on it too that's probably 3 times what the face amount is if you're killed accidentally.
Could you talk a little bit, since we're talking about that and that was brought up, like key man insurance, and explain that to our listeners? And I assume that's just for somebody that is in partners with somebody, and or maybe not legal partners.
Yeah,
but
they don't even have to be partners.
Okay.
So if you've got a guy that basically your lead guy or whatever that drives most of your business, and say he does all the supervision, he does everything, and hence he's a key man. So to replace him, you may have to hire 2 guys. You may have to hire 3 guys. So you can put life insurance on him. Let's just say his name's Joe. You can put life insurance on Joe as a business that it will allow you to be able to replace Joe's income, Joe's whatever, but without a loss to your business. You know, it serves as a.
So the business is the beneficiary.
Business is beneficiary. Yep.
And what kind of expenses do those policies bring around?
I
mean, I'm sure it's age, I guess.
It is. It's age and health related. I mean, you know, they're gonna do a P test and a blood test on Joe, and they're going to ask, you know, there's like, they've simplified stuff now where you can literally there's like 10 questions that you have to ask, and you can get up to X. Now, when you start getting into the $500,000, million policies on up, then they're going to do but you can get $250,000 coverage on a guy with just 10 questions and him peeing in a cup.
That's gotcha. Is that something you would recommend?
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're not active in the business, or you're active in the business, but you've got 2 or 3 key guys that basically do all the stuff, and you're basically act as a manager. Well, if those 2 or 3 guys, say those 2 or 3 guys are killed in a car in the same truck, what are you gonna do? Now, I mean, you can take the money. You can take the money and just walk away and close the business. But if you want to continue the business, then key man's the way to go. And you'd be surprised at how few people I have that buy key man.
I can believe it. Yeah, I mean, it's something that I covered in a different way, but
right.
Yeah, but it's something that you guys need to think about.
Yeah,
for sure, is the partners in the company, and that's one of those things I think that a lot of times is easy to overlook. Something else that I wanted to talk about was if I start diversifying my services. Hey, I was mowing lawns, or I started out mowing lawns, but now I do fertilization and weed control, or snow and ice management, or holiday lighting. Does that affect all across my general liability and my work comp, or just one or the other?
So,
and do I need to let my insurance company know
the
different things that I do?
The insurance company, because the worst case scenario would be something happen. Well, all right. So there's I can only think of very few times that in 30 some years I've been doing this where an insurance company denied a claim. Most of the time what happens is they'll pay the claim and then send you a 90-day notice canceling your insurance because you were doing something that you didn't inform them of that's not specifically excluded by the policy, but you didn't, there's fraud claims where you intentionally misrepresent to them what you're doing. I've seen a couple of those be some issues. But if you're a mowing guy and then you decide you buy a couple of snowplows and start plowing snow and something happens,
right,
then they'll pay the claim, charge you the premium for what it would have been had you told them, and then 90 days later they'll cancel your insurance. But basically, there's things they'll ask your agent up front, does this guy do snow plowing? And if he says no, even though you told him yes, then there's a whole different set of legal ramifications associated with that. But if you answered yes and he didn't put it on there, then there's coverage. If you weren't doing it at the time, there's coverage. But anytime you change operations, anytime you do anything different than what you've been doing, you need to let your insurance agent know, because the company needs to know. And then even if it might be a situation where I'm afraid they won't write my insurance again. Well, independent agents such as myself, if that insurance company won't write your insurance, they've got 10 others that will. It's just a matter of, but you don't. Worst thing you can do is keep something from an insurance company.
Why does the income affect pricing on insurance? My guy's like, how much are you going to be making or doing?
Okay, so if I understand that, why does income affect? Are we talking workers' comp? Are we talking, because both of them are affected? I mean, workers' comp's based off of payroll. General liability can be based off of payroll or sales. Those are the only 2 auditable classes. All right, GL and sales. GL is sales and payroll. Workers' comp is payroll. All right, so if the reason it's rated off of payroll is, so let's say you're paying Joe $10 an hour. So every hour that Joe's out there is the potential for Joe to tear up something of someone else's, or injure someone. So if Joe works a 40-hour week and then Joe works overtime, now he's working a 50-hour week. So instead of 40 hours for Joe to either hurt someone or tear something up, now he's got 50 hours that he can hurt someone and tear something up.
All right.
So the insurance company has the exposure for that. So therefore, they're entitled to collect the money for that, because if Joe does something in the 49th hour of his work week, they're not going to exclude it because it's 49th hour, but you base the payroll, you base the exposure basis off of a 40-hour week.
All right.
And if you got more pay, so and if you add 10 employees and your payroll goes up, then you got the exposure of 10 people doing 10 times more than what the two guys you had hired were doing. So they're not. It's based off the rate that your initial deal was based off of.
He said his particular agent asked him, he said, how much are you doing in Christmas lights, and then how much are you doing on snow?
All right,
lighting?
So there's a separate classification for snow. That's street, and there's a street and road class that they, cleaning class that they use for snow. The Christmas light deal, I went through all of that and looked all of that up when I was talking to Wayne. There's not a separate classification for hanging Christmas lights per se. On the GL, on the workers' comp, they used it was street or lights or something. There was a class on there for that. I've got it written down, but off the top of my head, I don't remember the exact class. So I'm not going to throw that out there because I don't want to confuse or someone come back and say, well, that's not what he said. I'm telling you, there's a class under the workers' comp, but you have to. It's a class that involves heights, because if you're hanging Christmas lights on the side of a building or on a roof, you're 10 to 15 feet off the ground, and that changes the whole scope from a workers' comp standpoint. But the GL, the landscaping, lawn care does not. The landscaping class is a park NOC class, and the lawn care class is a separate class under the.
Well, I know that saved us a lot of money.
Yeah.
Making sure that you're classified properly.
Right. Yeah, because if you're doing mowing and stuff, then that's different than. If all you're doing is putting out mulch and stuff like that, you just need to make sure that it's classed correctly. But if I don't know what state you're in, but different states have different classification tables that they use for insurance, and they different insurance companies have to file the rates with the ISO, the Insurance Services Office, and all that in your state insurance department. So I can't speak, but I know Kentucky, the light hanging fell under the landscape gardening class for the hanging, it's for the putting up of the lights itself. But then the workers' comp class was a separate code that I've got written down on a piece of paper on my desk, but I don't have it with me.
I gotcha. And the proverbial question, how much is enough?
And
let me rephrase it another way, and you know what I want to say. The guys that run around that says fully insured on his truck.
There's nobody that's fully insured. Nobody could be, fully insured, no. There's exclusions. There's exclusions in your GL policy. There's exclusions in your automobile policy. There's exclusions in your workers' comp policy, your inland marine policy. So, all of there's exclusions in all of them. If you're really bored and don't have anything to do, you can pull those out and read all of them. But, no.
But the bottom line is
nobody's fully insured. You can't, there's always gaps, holes in coverage. Let's say that you buy the GL, you buy pollution coverage, you buy employment practices liability, you buy employee benefits. Let's see what else. You get all the additional insured endorsements. You get all the blanket waiver, non-contributory, all those endorsements. All right. So then you have a claim that you only buy $1 million, and then you have a claim that's $1.2 million. Well, you're not fully insured. You only got $1 million and $1.2 million. So at some point, you should just put on the side of your truck insured and bonded or insured and licensed.
Leave it at that.
And leave it at that. Don't put fully insured on there, because in fully insured, some lawyer's going to see that and say, well, this guy's fully insured. Well, you're not. Nobody can be fully insured. There's nobody. You can't get insurance companies to waive enough of the exclusions and stuff. Those exclusions are in there for a reason. You can't get. You can't buy. You can't afford as a lawn care guy to buy all the coverages that you have to have in order to even be somewhat close to fully insured. Pollution coverage is, it's a separate limit. Now there is, if you do herbicide, pesticide, most if not all the insurance companies will throw in a limit for limited pollution coverage, which basically means that, if you mix the stuff up at your shop and take it to a job site and the tank gets a hole in it and it leaks, that's limited pollution. They're not going to give you full blown pollution, but they'll give you limited.
Now, does that mean, when you said that, Brad, does that mean if you have $1 million policy, you're not going to have $1 million limit on pollution coverage?
That's correct. They'll limit the pollution to
whatever it is,
100,000, 50,000, 25,000, something like that.
Okay.
The snow plowing.
Now, what does it mean? What should somebody beware of? What should a business owner beware of when they get that phone call or they get that cold call, sells the insurance person that walks into their office and says, "You're paying too much. I don't care what it is. I can beat their rate." Where's the? And I'm just going to call it what it is. Where's the cheat on that? When they say they're going to beat a rate, what does that normally mean in English?
So,
because it's probably easy to beat a rate, right?
There's 50. Every account I've got, I could find somebody to beat the rate. I could do that internally, but
what happens when you beat a rate?
You end up with you either cut exposure bases, you cut limits, or you get an insurance underwriter to rate it and give you a price knowing full well that he's going to raise it 40 or 50% next year to get back to about what it was. Because, if I've had an account for 20 years with the same insurance company, then you can bet that insured is priced pretty competitively based upon the loss history and the stuff that have happened over the last 20 years.
All right.
Because, there's the thing that, and I'm not trying to sell any of you guys anything, I'm just answering questions. The thing that insurance companies, that insurance agents won't tell you, is the longer that I can keep you with an insurance company, the better rate, the better pricing you're going to get, because there's a history.
All right.
They've got a comfort level with you. I've had them for 8 years and they've had a broken windshield, or I've had them for 8 years and they had one bad accident, but they've not had anything other than that. So hence, it was an accident. There wasn't any.
I knew you did tell me that a long time ago, that
there's
a bad accident, not that you want it to happen, is better than a lot of little ones.
Especially on workers' comp. Workers' comp, somebody cuts their hand off, it was an accident. But if guys are constantly getting their fingers hung and stuff, or their back injuries from jumping off vehicles and stuff like that, then that becomes a loss control issue, rather than a guy that it was an accident. Something flew apart on the mower and it cut something like that. Even a bad automobile accident, if it's one, but if you constantly got people rear-ending, running into stuff, then that means probably they're on their cell phones and they're not paying attention to what's going on in front of them. So that's basically it.
Now, what can some companies quickly do to mitigate some of the cost of insurance? What are some policies they can implement? I know, like, we had to get a driver safety course.
So, and going back to your thing about the insurance companies. So that's the same thing. If you've been with your insurance agent for a long time and you and him have a pretty good relationship, there's a lot of things that he can do for you behind the scenes that will make your company and your stuff a lot more presentable or palatable to an insurance company. You know, having
Well, I know, like with snow,
right.
they took our snow contract and our snow information and took that, and because we did have that in place.
Yeah, because you know what they're looking at on snow is what type of liability are you accepting after you leave the lot? You know, are you telling them that you'll be back every 30 minutes? Are you telling them that you'll be back every hour? Because, you know, in the snow business, when you plow the snow, there's ice under the snow, and then you have to salt the ice. So, and then the temperatures have to reach a certain temperature to be able to get for the salt to react. That's my basic knowledge of snow removal. But if the temperatures don't get above said number, and you know somebody slips and falls on the ice, then guess where they're coming? They're coming to you all, and because the person that you made the deal with to plow their snow, they've asked for blanket insured, waiver of subrogation, primary non-contributory, so you're on the hook. And then if it gets really bad, then it may seep through to them somehow or another. But for the most part, you know, most contractors and property managers and stuff know this. Most contractors and most contractors' insurance companies will put anything and everything on that policy so that the contractor can get the job. I mean, there's a lot of times that I see stuff, I'm like, I don't even know why they're asking for that, or why the insurance company would even do that. But they're asking for it, the insurance company does it. But, you know, it's really putting a lot more liability and responsibility on the contractor than it should, because you can't control what the premises was before you got there.
How do you know and we'll wrap it up with this as a final. How do you know you're properly insured? You really don't, do you?
No, well, yeah.
Or do you? I mean,
do. If your insurance agent, you know, new business, every piece of new business I got, because I've been doing this long enough. But when I first started doing this years ago, I had a checklist that I had as an underwriter, and I would just go down the list. I said, "Here's this. Do you have this exposure? No. Do you have this exposure? No. Do you have this exposure?" And then I'd say, "Well, you know," and then I'd get the exposure list done. I'd be like, "You know, here's the gaps in coverage that I see that you have. And if you want them, fine. I'll get them and I'll sell them to you. But if you tell me you don't want them, then I'm going to document on my sheet that spoke with Wayne on 28th, 27th, 20. Spoke with Wayne Bowles, 4/28/25. Discussed getting employment practices liability coverage. Stated did not want. And that covers my butt, because if you have an employment practices liability claim and you say, well, we talked about that and you never got it. Yeah, we talked about it, but you said you didn't want it, and here's the day I documented it.
Yeah.
Or if I bring you a quote and you don't want it, then I have insurance sign off on it, says don't want, date, and then I put it in my file, because I got to protect my butt just like you are to protect your butt. But yeah, the fully insured part, or the getting the correct insurance, that's up to your insurance agent. That's not, you know, the insurance company's not going to tell you what you need. They're going to provide the coverage that you've requested, but they're not going to tell you what you need.
Right.
So that's a conversation you have with your insurance agent.
All right. And then for the agent that wants to keep the price low, and the contractor that doesn't know, are they just messed up until is that one of those things, you don't know what you don't know? In other words, like, how would Wayne find out that, hey, I'm not properly insured? Not with the limits, but hey, you don't have this coverage and you should.
So, do you
suggest that, like, if somebody's not, I guess this is probably a better way of asking. You can be confident with your agent.
Right.
But how do you really know you've got coverage for everything that you really want coverage for when you don't know what you don't know?
Let's say,
as a business owner.
Let's say that, Google's your friend. Just Google insurance coverages for lawn care services, and it'll give you a list of potential or exposures that you have or whatever, and then it'll tell you But I mean, if see, I don't want to throw. Let's just say if the person that you're dealing with, from an insurance standpoint, insurance agent standpoint, he should know all the coverages that you need, and he should recommend those coverages to you. And then at that point, if you decide as the business owner that you don't want them, then that's fine. That's on you. I'm not paying $500 for employment practices liability. I'm not going to get sued. Okay. Well, all you got to do in today's world is make one little comment about whatever.
Right.
And you're getting sued. Same way with like cyber liability. Right now, cyber liability is probably the biggest claim that there is. And I'm not talking about, them getting in and hacking millions of dollars out of your bank account. Most of it is ransomware stuff where they'll get on and they can keep you from being able to access your account information until you pay them $10,000, and then they'll turn your stuff loose, and then you got to go through the problem of getting everything rebooted, redone, and all that. But that's where most of the claims are right now. And most of your insurance companies now will include some form of cyber liability. It may be limited, but there's some form of cyber liability included with the policy. You can get full-blown cyber policies, but those are more for people that handle a lot of other people's transactions, per se. Yeah.
Good deal, Brad. Man, I appreciate it. I appreciate you. Man, it was an hour pretty quickly there, but and I mean we could just go on and on and on. But I think, as a final thought from your end, what would you suggest somebody does right now today to make sure that they can be comfortable with who they've got and what their policy has coverage for?
So nobody, none of you want to get your insurance policy out and read it. Don't blame me. I've got customers that I say, "You want your insurance policy?" No, because if I got an insurance question, I'm calling you anyway. Okay,
yeah.
Cool. But here's the thing: you can't. You need to call your insurance agent and just ask him, "Do you think that I have all the insurance coverage that I need?"
And are you properly classified?
Yeah, and are you properly classified? And is who's excluded or included or excluded? Depending upon state law or the need or the wants and needs of the business owner. But yeah, you can't. But if you trust your insurance agent and you're with an insurance agent that does commercial insurance and knows commercial insurance, you're 95 to 100% guaranteed you're properly insured.
Yeah.
But if you're with a personal lines company that's trying to delve into commercial insurance, and I'm not going to name any names, but if you're with a personal lines company that's trying to delve into commercial insurance, or they've got a slot rated bot program that they throw you in that says that covers everything, no. But if you're with an insurance agent that is a commercial insurance agent, and you're with a reputable insurance company, chances are you have the coverage you need.
All right.
But there's only one way to find out, and that's plain.
Yeah. All right, man. Hey, I appreciate it, Brad.
Yeah.
And Brad, again, he's been our agent for, I don't know, almost 3 decades. I guess at least 2.5.
Wayne and I were both a lot thinner and had a lot more hair.
Yeah. Well, you're still thin, but we've been working together a long time, and the key is to have somebody that you trust. And if you